The NBA playoffs are just 2 days away, so we're going to set you up with a full preview of the Eastern Conference playoff picture and give you the best bets that you can make. Remember, if you find any value from the video that we're doing today, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the Board YouTube channel for more NBA sports betting content powered by the Hammer Betting Network. Visit thehammer.bet for all of your sports betting needs. We're here on the Board YouTube channel once again with myself, Jacob, hosting Pips of PipsNBA on Twitter. You guys know him very well from our pick and roll live streams. And we have a very special guest here, Brian Versta at Brian Versta on Twitter. Make sure you guys go check him out there. Show him some love on Twitter. Thank you so much, man, for joining us for our playoff preview for the Eastern Conference today.
No, yeah, I mean, I've as much as I talked to Pips throughout the year, I've never actually done any streams with them, and this is interesting because usually no one watches my content, so this is going to be the first time that people actually see what I have to say. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're very happy to have you guys here joining us for this one. So let's get right into this series here. We're going to start with the New York Knicks against the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's a lot of pretty not interesting series in the Eastern Conference. Maybe perhaps still some bets that we are looking to make in those ones. But because we want to have the excitement here, let's go to the Knicks against the Cavaliers here. Now, Pips was telling me just about this one pre-show here as I pull up the odds for this one. The Cavaliers on DraftKings here, one that is readily available for everybody to use as a sports book. Cavaliers are minus 200. The Knicks are at plus 165. As always, make sure you guys are line shopping for best possible prices here. Pips was telling me that this one has moved a little bit off of the price. The Cavaliers are at minus 185. So let's start with you, Brian, bringing you in. Anything in particular that you are looking to see from this matchup? Anything betting-wise that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah.
Here?
So this is a matchup where I kind of was just mentioning like an hour ago when I did a stream. This is my obviously the most fun one to watch, but I think it's the most fun one to bet as the series goes on because my biggest thing in this matchup is the health of Julius Randle. I think he's such a key thing for this Knicks when you're playing against athletic bigs like Mobley and Jared Allen, that if he's not 100%, I almost want to see how game one looks with his health. And if the Knicks somehow steal it, but he doesn't look healthy, I will 100% bet the Cavs or vice versa. I think it's a fun one to watch because I think that the key thing is how healthy he is because he's going to play, but who knows how he's going to look because I thought he might miss a lot more time than he is expected to.
Yeah, we'll flip over to Pips. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the same thing. He's questionable for first game, and if this wasn't the first game of the series, I think he will be out. So if we had regular season for a week, I think he will be out for an additional week. They are trying to rush him back because, as he said, I don't think they can win without him. They won they played 4 games this season. The Knicks won 3, but the last one was with not fully rosters for both sides.
Yeah.
So I actually said it's 2-1 on the season, and I think this is this matchup is the one thing. A key point of this matchup is tips. How is he going to approach it? He will stay with his drop coverage and remain stubborn like he always has been. I'm like Hawks fanboy, and I remember the series against Hawks, and I think they did worse than they could because Tips just kept playing Mitchell Robinson deep drop coverage, and he was going to play deep drop coverage against Garland and Mitchell. That's the worst way to play against Cleveland. And on the other side, they are heavy playing switch Cavaliers, and Mobley against Randle isolations won't go well for Randle. But so the key player for this series is obviously Jalen Brunson. Can he have huge load? And he showed that he can. Last season against the Utah Jazz, when Doncic was hurt, he was carrying the team on his back. And this is a similar spot. And yeah, the Jalen Brunson will be key for this series. Last game, he scored almost 50 points. He showed that he can do a great job. So yeah, it's a lot about Jalen Brunson. But Cavaliers have home court advantage here, and I think this series should be Cavs in 6. And we are getting plus money on it. I don't won't make it official, but it's kind of interesting for me. It's for Cleveland Cavaliers that which are healthy, playing against the Knicks that have Randall questionable and probably rushed back. And yeah, I love the Knicks this season, but I think Cavs should win this in six.
Terrible draw for the Knicks. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is a terrible draw, especially with a Randall that's a little unhealthy. Because if Mitchell Robinson gets into foul trouble with that drop coverage, which he's seen multiple times, I mean, you're losing all your length in this matchup if you don't have a healthy Randall and a foul trouble Mitch. It's just so tough that I just have a hard time backing it, like unless it's like a live situation. But yeah, you did mention the Brunson, and it's the same matchup last year. It's Spider and Brunson in the playoffs, and
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell shot 39%, scored 25 points in that series, and Brunson, I believe, was 27.8, and he was shooting at close to 50. So if Brunson can take over, that's a big thing. But yeah, it's just so hard to it's hard to back a team without knowing the health. It's the same thing with the Clippers and Paul George. You don't know the health of one of their big guys, which is really hard to like lay units down on.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, like even if Randall's healthy, I have Cavs in this. So with him being questionable health and it's being stubborn, I lean heavily into the Cavs. They here like I'm very comfortable they win this series, but I think they can do it in six. So we did home court advantage.
One thing I'll float by both you guys here, as we see on the DraftKings screen here, the over/under for this series, we have -180 for the over 5.5 games. Obviously, quite juicy there with -180. But do you think that's something you can still attack? Like, I feel like that's a pretty good area to look at if you want to get some action on this series.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, like you're paying a lot of juice for any of these playoff series, which is kind of nice that DraftKings does let you. I'm not a big parlay guy, but there is certain things where you can say, like, if you like the Celtics in one series, you can almost take the juice down a little bit. But yeah, I do think that this is a game that should go 6. But like you said, if Julius Randle isn't healthy, it's almost like the Cavs should just steamroll.
How worried are you about the Cavaliers and the lack of shooting with some of the players on the team? Because playoff-wise, floor spacing is essential. If Okoro's getting a lot of minutes, he can't shoot. Evan Mobley can't shoot. Jarrett Allen can't shoot. Do you think there's any way in which the New York Knicks can play to that weakness?
I want to talk about it. That's the perfect question for me. And also, Grant can confirm this. So you watched probably 76ers and Cleveland Cavaliers. They played last
Sadly,
time. Yeah. So the first half, not the last game, but the game before, when Embiid was showing at the level of the screen, he was hedging out Mitchell and Garland, and they were forced to hit Mobley and Okoro in corners for wide open threes. That's the way you play the defense against the Cleveland, and the Cleveland don't have any answer to it because Mobley and Okoro can't shoot, so they don't have wing shooters. And if you hedge the screens on Mitchell and Garland, they are in big trouble. And that's why I'm saying Tips will keep being stubborn, play Mitchell Mitchell Robinson in deep drop, and you don't need shooting then. You are good enough with Levert, with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. You don't need anything more. So I just think if someone else was the coach of the Knicks, I wouldn't be so comfortable in Cavs winning this because you can make the life difficult for them because they like shooting. But if you keep their best players, best shooters in wide open shots out of the screen with drop coverage, I think they will annihilate this
Yeah,
match.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's the other thing is the only way I could see the Knicks, like obviously you said 6, so they get 2 wins in that scenario. And that's those kind of games where you have the out-of-body games of like Brunson or Quickly or these guys who can catch fire. So like if they get really hot from shooting one day, yeah, they're gonna steal a few games. But overall, I just think the Cavs are a much stronger team. But you failed to mention the sharpshooter Danny Green. You know, recently Cavs the playoff legend Danny Green. You forgot to mention his sharpshooting. Now I make a joke, but he's probably not going to see minutes. But yeah, I do.
Also, one guy off the bench that if he makes the first shot, you are in trouble, and that's Sedi Osman. That guy can 7-game series. He can have 2 games where he gets hot and scores like 15 points in 5 minutes and completely change the course of the game. He did it a couple of times this season, and that's not something you can like. You give him 10 minutes of the bench. If he has it, run with it. If he doesn't, just shoot him down, and that's it. But
Yeah.
it's a playoff basketball. We'll see Mitchell and Garland playing 42 minutes, Jared Allen playing 42 minutes, Mobley Evan playing 42 minutes, probably
Yeah.
40 plus minutes. So you need only 6 and 7 guy, and they have these guys. They have Rubio, they have Levert, and some minutes for Okoro, and try out Sedi Osman and Danny Green. So like they are great playoff team. They had some troubles with regular season when you need to run 10 deep. But when you play 8 deep in playoffs, they are a great team. They're starting 5, one of the best in the league.
Yeah, and the Cavs are completely okay saying we don't have the best shooters, but we can outlast you playing half court offense, half court defense the entire time. And if we win 98 to 94, so be it. But they're okay just bleeding that long term half court.
I think Tibbs would rather lose like that than win 120 to like 118. He just wants to keep the score nice and low to keep his sanity. Before we move on to the next series, any other bets or angles that you want to take for this series, or are we exhausted at all here?
The only thing I would say is DraftKings has some bet offers where you can see like you can bet players to average like a certain level of points per game in a series. They don't they have it for Mikal Bridges or this or that. If they ever open one from now until Saturday for Jalen Brunson, I would look for the over, but they don't have it out there yet. That's the one thing I'm waiting on, is to see if they offer like a points per game average for Brunson.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I agree on that one, because even if Brandel is playing, I don't expect him to have high usage. So it's really down to Brunson, and Brunson is currently 25 and a half, and I think I'm okay with betting the over on it. But yeah,
I will say the last time that Brunson dropped 48, I took his over 25.5 points, and I was at a dinner with my girlfriend's family, and I was getting texts after the first quarter, and I was like, dude, the game just started. What are you guys talking about? They're like, dude, you got 23 already. And I was like, oh, man. So, yeah, he definitely has the capability to do that against this team.
And all also, right, like me as being the being the same game parlay guy this season, I would actually love to take Brunson on lower line with Darius Garland on lower line combined for like maybe Garland 18 plus and Brunson 21 plus or 22. That seems like if they play drop coverage, Garland need to score 20 plus points for sure. So we will probably have that on the show possible, but that's some angle. I think this is the series great for Garland, Brunson, and Mitchell, but Mitchell will have amazing lines. It's like I think he's 30 and a half now, and yeah, that's it for the tight playoff game where we expect both teams to score under 100 points. For a guy to have 30 and a half line is kind of a lot, but still very achievable for Mitchell, and he's playing against the Knicks. Always huge motivation. I'm not a huge guy on motivation, but this one is 100% true.
All right, so let's move into the next series here. We'll appeal to Brian here, a 76ers fan. We'll go to the 76ers series against the Brooklyn Nets. I got to say, I've been really down on the Brooklyn Nets for a long time. I think they're rather fortunate to be in the playoffs right now. And a lot of the odds out there would tend to agree with me. The 76ers, at least on DraftKings, are minus 900 to win this series. Brooklyn Nets have odds of plus 600 here. And even the series spread minus 2.5 in the favor of the Sixers is minus 150. So let's start off with Brian here as a 76ers fan. Any way you see yourself attacking this series from a betting perspective, and what do you expect to see?
The only thing I could see myself from a betting perspective is that you can get it at plus 250 for Spencer Dinwiddie to lead the series in assist. I only look at that because I think it's going to be between him and Harden, but he's averaging 10.2 assists since I think February 1st, and I think it's Harden, but Harden's priced at minus 400. So this is one of those things where do I think that Dinwiddie should be plus 250 on it? Don't really think so. So that would be more like a value play. It's not something I'm going to like put a lot of units on this and that, but it's almost like if the Sixers are up big too and we rest early, the Nets will have their starters playing 40 minutes. Some nights maybe Harden will get a little bit earlier days. So that's just something I think is a value spot. But in terms of betting, in this series. I'm a big believer that the Sixers, no matter how good they are, I've been watching them my entire life. They should sweep this series, but knowing us, we go 5. We always go 5. And I think that happens a lot, even if you talk about the Celtics series, this or that. A lot of times, even though you're the way better team and you should sweep, I mean, they're still professional basketball teams. You go to Brooklyn in their home court and you get 2 games. The odds of them stealing one is right there, but I don't see this series going more than 5. I don't want to be the biased guy wearing a Sixers hat on your show and say, "Oh, I'm all in on the Sixers." But if they double Embiid, he's good enough to pass out of it. If they don't double and they allow that pick and roll, Harden and Embiid's pick and roll is just so good, and it's at such a crazy high level right now. And Maxi's putting up enough good minutes where his biggest thing in his development is his 3-point shot, where it's what we needed. It's what the Sixers needed in terms of how this offense would run. And his 3-point shooting has gotten a lot better recently. That if they do key in on that PNR and you have, the corner 3 specialist of PJ Tucker or Maxi at the wing, I just think there's too much firepower for the Nets to really extend this to 6 games.
So would you look for like an exact series at 5 games, or would you look to maybe an under 5.5 games if you wanted to play that one?
I would
under 5.5, minus 160, 5 games exactly, plus 195.
I would honestly maybe look to take a little bit of both of that, because I think 5 is a good number. Because like I said, I think the Sixers should sweep, but I think
it will be a huge mistake to take under 5.5 and minus 160 when you can get 76ers minus 2.5 for minus 150. There's no way Nets win in 5. So
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. If you gotta look at the odds, certain things where sometimes the markets don't really they don't really make sense in terms of, unless you're getting at the underdog.
It's giving that minuscule possibility that the Nets do win in 5. That just varies. It's worth 10 cents.
I'll say this shouldn't be 250. That's for sure. That's good find. I'll see like maybe 160, 170. So that's kind of a huge edge for the value there. So I kind of like it. If we take a look since the All-Star, I think they are almost even in the assists. And the Brooklyn Nets are terrible matchup for assists because they switch. So they are not offering a lot of easy assists. I think they allowed the 5th least assist in the league. I'll check on it for a second. But yeah, fourth least assist in the entire league. That's because they switch and they allow a lot of one-on-one. So I think what will try to do they will just want to. The last time they played, it was quite. The 76ers won 101 to 98. A very close game. They actually won it in the last 5 minutes of the game. And if you take a look, there's one thing that's weird. But Embiid had 37, Harden had 29. The rest of the starters had 5 points.
Yep,
Maxi
I remember that game. It's a rough game to watch.
That's the thing. Like if you just get Embiid, get his, and everyone else doesn't get any touches on the ball, even if Embiid is very efficient, that's the problem. And that could be their way of playing. Also, I don't care if they double Embiid; he can score through everyone because no one can. If even you remember the game against the Cubs when they were triple team him and he was scoring on them. That's the thing tonight with this series. Claxton is too small. Even if another guy came in, Embiid will just go through them and get to the line.
Yeah, so, I think the other thing too is people always have this perception that you don't get calls in the playoffs, but if you aggressively double team him, he's so good at moving his body where he'll still get calls. Not saying he's gonna get all the, some of the calls you might see, but if you overplay him, he's so good at just attacking and getting the calls at the rim. And if the Nets, they have the depth, they don't have the depth at forward positions to survive anyone being in foul trouble either.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I would also like to say, this Embiid and Harden, they have their legacy on the line. That's absurd level. I'm huge Harden. That's my favorite player ever, and he'll do whatever it takes in order to win and I don't think they will go 110% every game. Like that's usually sometimes when you play like huge favorite, you can not be in 100% and lose some game. This team will be locked in from the first second of the first game. But my issue with 76ers is Doc Rivers.
Oh yeah. Oh,
His rotation is terrible. Like like so many games they played the Knicks one game and they started I think 29-12 run, and I had a bet on Embiid and was talking with a friend and he said, "Are you worried of a blowout?" I just said it's Doc Rivers. It's not going to happen. And
Yeah.
then he gets Montrezl Harrell in for 7 minutes and it was a tie game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my issue with this series.
That's my biggest worry as a Sixers. As you mentioned, Doc Rivers, is that he's so set on his rotations to the point where it's almost clockwork that you know who and when is checking in. And I think in the playoffs, his biggest thing is it's the playoffs. Like if Embiid, if we're on a bad stretch, I don't care if it's a 9-minute mark and he's supposed to come in at the 7:30 mark. He's got to start accepting that this extra 90 seconds for a guy that's been like way healthier in his career, like this year, he's been a lot healthier. It's not going to change in the playoff. Like he's got to come in and he's got to be less stubborn in his rotations throughout the whole playoffs, not just a series. But he's got to realize that just because you have these tick marks on your coaching clipboard of when people come back in does not mean you have to follow it to a T.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on about Doc Rivers all day, the rotations and I guess his inabilities as a coach. And me and Pips have spoken about him on the show quite a bit this season. Yeah.
He's the only one that can really kill a talented roster like this, honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Pips, and we'll finish up this series.
We all remember that series against the Hawks. I was so happy that he is the coach and he gave us all the chances we needed in that series. And yeah, I just think they need to play Harden and Embiid more together because I'm huge fan of Harden and Embiid pick and roll, but I'm not huge fan of Maxi and Embiid pick and roll because Maxi is not good at making that pocket pass and getting Embiid involved. He'll rather set for some questionable shots in the pick and roll while he has Embiid wide open on the free throw line. So I love Maxi on the court when Embiid sits because his pace, he's just running it. And I love Harden with Embiid, but yeah, he's staggering minutes. Usually Harden comes out at the 7 minutes into the first quarter, and then Embiid plays 5 minutes without.
And that's newer. It didn't start like that. Harden used to play most of the first with Embiid, and they've been really experimenting with that, with separating them. But I think they're better. I think our bench unit runs better when Harden's not running with the bench. I think Harden works better finding the best shot. So it'd be interesting to see how we adjust for the playoffs. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later because you don't have the margin for error.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move now into the next series here. We have the Celtics and the Hawks. Hawks obviously victorious in their playing game against the Miami Heat. Their prize is a 7-game series. If it goes that far against the Boston Celtics, expectation is that it won't get that far here, judging by the odds here from DraftKings. -1,000 for the Celtics to win this series, +650 for the Hawks. And interestingly, the over-under on this series is 5.5 games. Over you can get at +140. And that one, I'm immediately looking at that and think that looks like a pretty good price here. So Pips, either convince me why over 5.5 is not good or potentially why it could be a good play for the Hawks. So you have obviously watched so much this season.
Yeah, I watched a lot, but it's Quinn Snyder now, so we can throw away everything that happened before the All-Star break. I'll just say, like, I'm probably the least possible fan of DeJounte Murray. I hate that guy. Even in the game against the Miami Heat, they were up 20, and then he 4 straight possessions he took contested pull up mid range with 5 seconds into the possession. He's one of the most inefficient 20-point scorers in the league. Like probably the least efficient 20-point scorer in the league. He's 54% true shooting guy, and he just takes stupid shots. And like his defense is great, but on the offensive end, I kind of have problems with him. I'll rather have more offense running through Collins and John Collins getting 5 touches a game, Hunter getting so yeah, that's the thing. But we need him to defend Jalen Brown, even though he doesn't have the size. This is huge game, a huge series for Trae Young. It will be like all down to Trae Young how great he'll shoot against the single coverage and drop coverage. I think he could have huge series. I wouldn't be surprised if he averages 30 points in this series
Yeah.
because he just have to. Also, Hunter is kind of big player for the Hawks in this series because he will need to guard Jason Tatum probably or Jalen Brown, and he is capable of slowing them down. On the other side, he has the size to play against the isolation. If he get Derek White on him or Smart on him, he'll need to score one on one. Bella played unbelievable game against the Hawks, against the Heat last
Yeah.
game. He was tremendous on rebounding and rim protection. If he can offer similar rim protection to that game, Hawks could have the chance because last season he was almost defensive player of the year candidate. He was unbelievable. And if he can repeat this season, he had a huge drop off, but he wasn't healthy half the season, so maybe that's it. But against the Heat, he was amazing at the defense. If he can pull, like, Hawks have such a small room for error. There is no room for error at all. But if they can get great games for Capella, Hunter, and Trae Young, they have a chance to win a couple of games here.
Yeah,
And I'll go over to Brian here. Yeah, your thoughts in this series?
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is actually a series where it might maybe go 5 or 6, but I do think Boston at -2.5 like spread is almost tempting because my biggest thing is like I think Pips kind of mentioned it a little bit, but like Murray's shooting is inefficient, and it's one of those things where I mean the Hawks rely on that pick and roll so heavily. It's like their only offensive, like you talk about their tool bag. It's like all they have is that pick and roll, and Boston's so good at their switch defense that I was like looking into it too, where from the 10 to 19 foot range, like those little floaters for Trae and some other guys, the Hawks, I mean, they're a top 3 shooting team, but from that 20 to 25 range, they're bottom 5. So I think it's gonna be really tough if the Celtics make the Hawks shoot. Like if they make the Hawks get tougher baskets or actually take jump shots that aren't those little floaters or anything at the rim, I just think it's gonna be really tough for them. I hate Boston. I like have to hate Boston, but I just find it really tough for this Hawks team to kind of stack up defensively, but also offensively against like the firepower of the Celtics. I think it's gonna be a really tough series for them.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe
I agree.
maybe less than 5 games here. Maybe the over, not quite the price we need. What anything to add from you, Pips?
Yeah, I mean it's heavy favorite on Boston. They need to really, I'll say, fuck this up to go over.
Jalen
5.5.
Brown would pack a bag so fast if they lose the series.
Yeah,
I also think that Boston have a very keen eye on last season's playoffs, where it's clear they ran out of gas in the finals. So they're going to want to make sure they mop up the Hawks pretty quickly here and get on with the playoffs, because the 76ers likely beckon in the second round. All right. We have one more to preview here. Not a full series, but just a single game here. We're going to preview the play-in tournament game, Miami against the Chicago Bulls. Winner is in the playoffs. They get to play the Milwaukee Bucks. Loser is obviously out here, but both teams high aspirations this season. I think it's just important for them to make it any way possible. So early lines here. Chicago obviously took care of the Raptors yesterday. Early lines, we have 5.5 spread in favor of the Miami Heat on DraftKings. Let's go to Pips first of all on this one. How do you see this one shaking out? We could see another low-scoring affair here. I'm looking at through on BetStamp now. You can get the under at 209. You can get, again, the 5.5 here widely across the board. Everything is settled in. But Pips, your thoughts on this matchup?
why are the Heat 5.5 points favorite in this one? Like, That doesn't make any sense. They look completely terrible against the Hawks, and Bulls actually looked pretty great in the second half of the game. And yeah, I just don't think that they should be 5.5 dogs in this matchup. They swept the season series against the Heat 3-0 and won by double digits all games. So yeah, or eight. So they won by 8 in the first game, by 10 in the second game, and by 14 in the last game. I just don't think I'll actually lean maybe Bulls in this one. So with the way Lavin is playing, if we get anyway good game from DeMar DeRozan, this is interesting.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
I'm I have troubles with Bulls coach because I don't think he's good enough. I think Spock has the edge here, but if we take a look at the team, like so the yeah Caruso will guard Butler probably, Beverly on Hero. Adebayo had very poor game against the Hawks. Yeah, I think when it came down to the it will be a close game, low scoring game, and I think Demar and Lavin have the edge over Adebayo and Butler in this one.
yeah.
So
No, I was gonna say was that I was like that's one of those things where the over under is 209. So that's the only edge I think the Heat have is that if it does come down to one of those, uh, if you're a casual or like a more lesser of a fan, I guess, of the game, where it's like almost like a claw your eyes out. It's going to be like a super slow defensive game. That's the only way I think the Heat can win is that if Levine and these Bulls shooters get hot early, it's a really tough spot for the Heat to try to play a more fast paced game. So if they're going to do the best they can. I would have taken the under if they didn't open at 208.5. I think 208.5. We talk about sharp playoff lines getting in the playoffs when there's less games, but I do think that the Heat get the benefit of the doubt in terms of the line when you ask why are they 5.5. I think there's this perception that like it's always been the fact that the Heat, when the chips are down, like playoff Jimmy, like when everything matters, they come through. And then you saw them against the Hawks, and they look terrible. So maybe that's a little too overhyped. But yeah, this is a game where I'll look for player props, but I don't see a side or like, and I don't know if I can back either team for 2 possessions in this game.
yeah, but that's why I think this is a 50-50 matchup, and we have 5.5
Yeah.
in a low scoring game. If it's a low scoring game, it's way easier to cover 5.5.
Yep, I agree.
Right? Yeah, and with Lavin and Demar, they had amazing game last against the Raptors, and they played almost the same rosters the last time they played. It was the game less than a month ago, so 3 weeks ago. They did great against them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean Beverly won't make 5 threes for sure again, but still they won by 14. So
you mentioned earlier that you're the same game parlay guy, which is you have been all year. So that's kind of the route I take a little bit in the playoffs because lines just get super sharp. There's times in the regular season where I'm looking at a line, I have it circled, see what it opens at, and it's 2 points lower. I'm like, boom, that's the line. A lot of times in the playoffs, you circle a spot, you wait for it to open. It opens right where you want it, right where you have it, and it's very difficult to kind of manipulate. But
yeah, sometimes it's open even higher than you expected because they have a great edge.
But
And
the
even
one,
if
no, I was gonna say for the same thing parlay as you were mentioning, the one look I was kind of looking at is I was gonna try to look to see what the odds would be for it. Then it's not open yet, but it's like an all under for Tyler Hero and an all over for Bam Adebayo. I think Adebayo has a better matchup by far than a guy like Tyler Hero, who I've bet the over and under on Tyler Hero a lot this season. Where when he plays against teams like the Hawks or these like lower defensive teams, he has like crazy true shooting. But when he plays against top 10 defenses or top 10 defenders, like he should see some tougher defense, I would think, in this game. His true shooting numbers drop like 12% when he actually has to face a defense that can close out a 3-point shot. So I think like he's open at 20.5. I think it's a slightly higher than I think it should be, but I might look for like a Bam Tyler Hero stack over under.
I'll give you a little bit of lore from the pick and roll live stream this season. I believe Tyler Hero bets were 0-5 this season. So
Really?
he's the mortal enemy of this show. So
that's so funny because I think I've actually had a lot of success with him just because I will just fade him when he's playing against anyone that can close out anything. So he's an interesting dude. I don't think Tyler Hero is as good as people think he is. People love him because there's a song about him, but I mean he's very okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Bam Adebayo should have a great edge in this series or in this game. Also, I think Vucevic, one of the worst defender that left at the 5 in the NBA right now, that left in the playing contention playoffs. And yeah, everyone is on Bam Adebayo after the game against the Hawks. They all blame him, even though Butler had terrible game. Everyone is on the Adebayo, and I think he will show up. Beverly or Caruso on Tyler Hero will make the life very difficult for him, especially if he gets Caruso matchup.
Yeah.
And also, Bulls' biggest issue is their size. They had so many problems with size against the Raptors and rebounding, but in this game, Heat is playing super small. They have Bam at 5 and Butler at 4, so there's no issue for Bulls there. So one thing that should be a problem for the Bulls is not there. Heat and Bulls play the same way defense. They are just overhelping on the nail and allowing to spot up threes. And if we take a look at shooting, I think Bulls, that are worst shooting team in the league, don't have a huge problem to match up with Heat, that also don't have any great shooters, especially with Bam Butler. I don't trust like Max Strus and Kelly Martin in the do or die game. So it will be up to Lowry having another great game and Tyler Hero shooting, and Tyler Hero won't get one good look in the game if Caruso is on him. So, or Beverly. So I think this will be very close, and yeah, I will lean heavily into the Bulls plus 5.5.
All right, so that is the end of the previews. But to finish off, let's give the viewers one official pick each. So I'll put you guys on the spot. Best play that you have from the show that we did today that you want to give out to the viewers, you recommend tailing. We'll start with Pips. Favorite play that we went through from today's show?
Favorite play that we went from today's show? Probably minus 1.5 for the Cleveland Cavaliers in series to win. That's my pick. For if we are talking about the series, that's the one I'm most comfortable with.
Okay, and Brian, your favorite play from today?
Yeah, actually, weirdly enough, the only thing I've ever locked in, I have locked in is minus 110. I mentioned in kind of parlaying some of these series things. I did take the Celtics minus 2.5 at minus 160, and I paired it with Joel Embiid to lead the series in rebounding. So okay. I think that's one where it's minus 110. If you don't like the risk of juice on one thing, I think it's one of those spots where I think Joel Embiid plays enough minutes to just kind of rack in the rebounds.
And for me, I already love the Chicago Bulls 5.5. So if I'm making a play, it's Chicago Bulls in this one. I see this as a really close game, and yeah, I'm taking this. I'm daring Miami to win this by 6 or more points. I just can't really see it from what I saw. Like that, they lost by 11 points against the Hawks. They should have lost by like 25, and I don't think that's really being accounted for in the way this price is being set. But that will wrap up the show for today. We have a Western Conference playoff preview coming tomorrow as well. Me and Pips will be back for that. And of course, our pick and roll live streams. Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We really appreciate it.
No
any final words for the people watching?
No, just know that I'll be at the games 1 and 2 of the Sixers, and if they lose one of them, you probably won't hear from me again.
All right, good to know. I'll remind you guys to subscribe to the Board YouTube channel for more NBA betting content. Hit that like button, rate and review 5 stars, and we'll see you next time for more sports betting content.